6:42 a.m. Frankfurt International Airport. The sky was a silvery gray. Dr. Celeste Moreau entered the terminal with a presence that needed no affirmation. Her smoke-colored cashmere overcoat fluttered lightly with each steady step. In her left hand, she pulled a leather brick suitcase, minimalist, classic. In her right, she held a phone displaying a boarding pass. Ether Air, First Elite, Seat 2A. Celeste was not simply wealthy. She was the voice behind closed-door summits between governments and the global financial elite, a speaker at Davos, and a witness called before the European Parliament. But this morning, she wanted only one thing: to board her flight. The First Elite check-in counter was quiet. The attendant there, a middle-aged man in a dark suit with an impassive face, looked up as Celeste approached. He glanced at her for less than a second before immediately gesturing to the left. "Economy is over there, ma'am." Celeste paused mid-step. She showed no anger. Raising her phone, she revealed the screen clearly. Name, airline, class, seat. First Elite. Seat 2A, she said, her voice calm as if reciting data. The man didn't bother to look at the screen. "Please proceed to the passenger assistance desk," he repeated, already turning to the next traveler. A white man in a light blazer, carrying no luggage. He was greeted with a smile and the question, "Still or sparkling water, sir?" Celeste said nothing. She turned and walked straight to a self-check-in kiosk. She scanned her phone. The screen displayed, Dr. Celeste Moreau verified, First Elite, Seat 2A priority boarding. The machine smoothly printed her boarding pass. No one apologized. No one took notice. She tucked the pass into her coat pocket and walked away. At the security checkpoint, she chose the pre-check lane for passengers with international security clearance. A young staffer, his face still marked by the early shift, scanned her documents, then abruptly looked up. "You've been selected for random additional screening." Celeste eyed the scanner, still blinking green. "I have a Nexus ID. Global entry. I'm exempt from additional screening." He shrugged, offering no explanation. While Celeste was led to a separate lane, the next 3 passengers, all white, passed through without a second glance at their documents. When the officer opened her suitcase, he pulled out a stack of documents labeled Confidential Horizons Fund, without wearing gloves. "You work in finance?" he asked, making small talk. Celeste looked him square in the eye. "I manage things others aren't allowed to see." He chuckled dryly. She did not. When the inspection ended, no one apologized. No one met her gaze. She exited the security area with her belongings, reorganized by her own hands. Precise, silent, undisturbed. But inside, something had shifted. Vigilance had risen, swift and instinctive. 7:10 a.m. The fluorescent lights in the pre-check area glowed cold, like the gaze of a system without conscience. Celeste stepped out of the screening zone, her coat slightly creased at the left shoulder from a pat-down that had lasted far longer than necessary. Not a single apology. No acknowledgement that what had just happened wasn't random. She walked toward the First Elite Lounge, Ether Haven, which promised calm, strong Wi-Fi, and a hot cup of oolong tea before takeoff. A moment of peace, well-earned. But when she handed her boarding pass to the lounge receptionist, a cheerful young blonde woman, the scanner gave a strange sound. Beep, beep, access denied. The woman frowned. "The system isn't validating your lounge access, ma'am." Celeste raised an eyebrow. "My ticket is First Elite. Seat 2A. Confirmed." The receptionist double-checked, her tone now slightly uneasy. "It appears your lounge access was updated around 15 minutes ago." "Updated by whom?" "I'm not sure. It might have been an automated system update." Celeste opened her phone, pulled up the receipt showing triple-tier confirmation. Payment, priority access, and lounge privileges. She handed it over. After a few seconds of silence and 3 failed override attempts, the system finally granted entry. "You're all set now. It was probably just a temporary sync issue," the woman said with a light smile. A smile like a bandage slapped over a deep cut. Celeste nodded and stepped inside. The lounge was quiet. Dark carpet, soft leather chairs, the clink of glass as subtle as breathing. She chose a seat by the window, opened her tablet, and began reviewing the Osaka investment project. But not 5 minutes passed before a male staff member approached. Black uniform, polite demeanor. "Ma'am, this area is currently reserved for platinum executive guests due to an unexpected surge in first passengers this morning. We'd appreciate it if you could move to the rear section." Celeste looked around. There were only 4 others in the space, all middle-aged white men, reading magazines or scrolling their phones. "Platinum executive outranks first elite?" she asked. "Not exactly. It's just an internal allocation this morning to ensure priority space." "And Ms. Moreau isn't considered priority?" He didn't answer. 10 seconds of silence. 1 blink. She stood up, closed her tablet. "Thank you. I prefer non-priority spaces anyway." Her voice was calm, but her words cracked like splitting glass. At the first-class snack area, Celeste stopped to collect her pre-ordered special meal. Gluten-free, dairy-free, sodium-free, as medically required. But the staff member at the counter grimaced after scanning her pass. "You're not listed for a special meal this morning. I placed the order 4 days ago, confirmed by Ether HQ Tokyo. The system may have adjusted your reservation when your ticket class was updated." Celeste said nothing. She recognized it now, a slow erosion, one privilege at a time, one step at a time. Subtle enough to avoid scandal, sharp enough to leave a mark. She didn't argue. She just walked away, like a ghost in silk, silent, but remembering. Near gate D6, she sat down. No lounge seat, no meal, no priority Wi-Fi. Just her, and the phone screen glowing with a message from her personal assistant. "All Tokyo meeting documents are ready. Wishing you a smooth journey." Celeste turned off the screen. The journey hadn't even begun, and clearly someone was trying to make sure it never would. 7:41 a.m. The boarding gate hadn't opened yet, but the screen had updated. Flight AA307, Tokyo, boarding at gate D6, on time. Celeste stood up and walked to a nearby self-service kiosk, intending to reprint her boarding pass, a redundant step, but one that confirmed everything was still on track. She entered her reservation code and scanned her ID. The screen displayed Dr. Celeste Moreau, seat 28B, main cabin. She frowned. 28B? Not 2A? She tried again. This time, the system didn't even ask for ID, it recognized her instantly and printed the pass. The new ticket appeared, no longer marked First Elite. Just a middle seat, economy class, near the lavatories. Bold letters read, "Basic seat, no upgrades permitted." The first sensation wasn't anger. It was disorientation, like when an elevator stops at the wrong floor or when someone quietly switches the nameplate on your office door during a meeting. She returned to the service desk near gate D6. The attendant, a young woman wearing one headphone, already looking weary, didn't look up as Celeste approached. "Hello, ma'am. How can I help you?" "My seat was changed," Celeste said, holding out both the new boarding pass and the original booking confirmation. "Seat 2A was reassigned, possibly due to overbooking. I didn't cancel. I didn't downgrade. I'm a priority passenger." The woman checked the screen. Her expression turned awkward. "The system is locked. The boarding list's already sealed. Who can unlock it?" I don't have that level of access." "Then call someone who does." 3 seconds of silence. Instead of calling, the woman scribbled a phone number on the back of a meal receipt and slid it towards Celeste. "You can call the complaint office." Celeste didn't touch the paper. "I'm not calling. I'm standing right here. And I'm not going anywhere until someone fixes this." The woman shrugged, offering no reply. Celeste turned and walked away from the counter. She had no choice now but patience, the cold, practiced patience of someone who had negotiated with central banks, worked with opaque partners, and now faced an airline executing a deliberate vanishing act. She returned to her seat near the gate. Nearby, a passenger accidentally dropped an overstuffed suitcase, which tipped into the aisle. Celeste stood and lifted it gently. Heavy. No one helped. No other passengers, no airport staff, no eyes meeting hers. Only a young employee in a black Ether Air uniform stood nearby, glanced briefly, and turned away. No words. No nod. Celeste set the suitcase upright and sat down again. She pulled out her phone and opened her email. Not to send anything, just to look at her own position in the system. Her status, her influence, everything was being quietly constricted by invisible hands. In less than 30 minutes, they had removed her from first class, revoked her lounge access, canceled her special meal, reduced her to an anonymous passenger. No explanation, no acknowledgement, no room for objection. All of it, automated, invisible, polite, and intentional. Celeste exhaled slowly. Not angry, not reactive, just preparing. Like a chess player lifting her hand off the board, already knowing the next move had been determined 2 turns ago. 8:05 a.m. The clock on the wall near gate D6 ticked forward minute by minute as if trying to delay something inevitable. Passengers had begun lining up. Boarding group calls echoed in orderly intervals. But Celeste Moreau remained seated, eyes fixed on her phone screen. She didn't call her assistant. She didn't alert the media. She didn't start recording. Instead, she opened an app almost no one else in the airport had even heard of, a portfolio command platform called Osiris, accessible only to top-tier shareholders with internal investment override privileges. Celeste scanned her fingerprint. A green icon appeared. Horizon Strategic Holdings, access level, black tier. She selected a command marked Emergency Override Protocol, Vendor Ethics Clause Violation. To VP of International Relations Ether Air. CC, Horizon Legal Counsel, Geneva, Tokyo. Subject, Immediate Suspension of Disbursement, Ethics Clause Breach, Case Code, CM, AA307. Beneath it, just 3 flat, emotionless lines. Suspend disbursement of expansion capital in Asia, total 380 million euros. Trigger clause, systematic exclusion behavior targeting premium clients, documentation attached. Initiate full compliance audit on CSR and passenger handling standards. Effective immediately. She tapped send. No one in the airport heard a sound. No alarms went off. But at the top floors of Ether Air headquarters, where live financial dashboards fed real-time decisions, a warning light now blinked red beside the funding pipeline for their Tokyo market expansion. 8:08 a.m. Celeste rose and walked directly to the boarding desk. She didn't wait for her group. She didn't need to. Trent Voss, the gate supervisor at D6, was mid-checking another passenger's documents when he looked up. His eyes narrowed just slightly, but it said everything. He recognized her. And he knew he'd just been recognized in return. Celeste placed her boarding pass and ID on the counter. I never changed my seat. 2A is still confirmed. And you know that. Trent didn't flinch. He swiped the screen and replied, voice perfectly neutral. I'm sorry, Ms. Moreau. The system has revoked your boarding due to a passenger classification inconsistency. A flawlessly administrative response. Hollow. Cold as dry ice. Celeste didn't retract her documents. She didn't argue. She simply tilted her head. You'll want to check your email. Trent paused. At that exact moment, a staff member came rushing down the hallway, leaned in, and whispered something in his ear. His face went pale. Celeste stepped back, not hurried, giving him room to read the notification now glowing on his internal terminal. Alert, Celeste Moreau, Black Tier Shareholder Status. Emergency review of full passenger processing protocol requested. Report ethic, code_4 under review by Geneva Legal. Immediate hold on all boarding for flight AA307. Around them, staff froze. Other passengers began sensing a shift in the atmosphere. The looks directed at Celeste were no longer curious, they were cautious. Trent stammered, I'll need a moment to verify. Celeste turned. I'll wait. She didn't return to her previous seat. Instead, she chose a spot by the glass wall where she could see the aircraft being prepped. She sat upright and took out a printed dossier titled Ethical Flight, Covert Discrimination in the Aviation Industry Pre-Release Report. She placed it on the table beside her. A quiet warning laid openly on the chessboard. 8:23 a.m. On the 7th floor of Ether Air's coordination headquarters, located within Frankfurt Airport, the internal system had just logged a highest-level anomaly, a freeze order on strategic capital from Horizon Strategic Holdings. A stakeholder with 9.4% voting power, capable of vetoing regional expansion plans. The executive boardroom lit up. Inside, 3 regional directors, 1 legal advisor, and 1 emergency assistant scanning the report now flagged on the internal dashboard. File name. CM AA307, incident flagged by investor tier, black. The legal advisor spoke first, voice clipped and firm. That woman isn't just a passenger. She halted a €380 million investment stream in under 8 minutes. If this goes public, the press won't call it an administrative error. They'll call it what it is, systemic discrimination. One director pushed back. We can still manage the press. Issue a personal apology. Not enough, the advisor cut in, pointing to a new warning flashing on the screen. DOJ, request for internal passenger flagging logs, urgent. Meanwhile, at Gate D6, Trent Voss, the man who had once looked at Celeste with thinly veiled contempt, was losing access to the passenger control interface. The screen in front of him now displayed a cold, unblinking message. Access restricted. Request escalated to compliance officer. He tapped to call his superior. No one answered. 8:35 a.m. In the waiting area near Gate D6, Celeste still sat calmly, as if nothing had happened. In her hand, a cup of hot tea, brought to her, this time, by the lounge manager personally. No explanation. No excuses. Her phone buzzed. A message from Horizon Geneva. Full ethic, code_4 report forwarded to EU Transport Commission. Awaiting VP response from Ether. She replied succinctly. Good. Initiate temporary block on all brand expansion transactions in East Asia. We don't invest in corrupted systems. She didn't specify which system, but everyone who had seen her demoted from seat 2A to 28B understood. 8:50 a.m. The display for flight AA307 to Tokyo abruptly changed. Delayed, technical review in progress. A ripple of unease spread through the gate area. Airline staff stopped answering questions. Some avoided even looking in Celeste's direction. An internal call echoed through the executive suite. We need to deal with the person who reclassified the passenger immediately. If this leaks, every first elite downgrade in the past 12 months becomes evidence. Another director cut in. This isn't just internal now. We're being investigated by a strategic investor. This audit could affect our stock price. 9:03 a.m. Celeste stood. She walked straight to the counter. No one stopped her. A new staff member, white shirt, gray tie, hurried up, bowed slightly. Ms. Moreau, I'm the lead passenger coordinator for flight AA307. We deeply apologize for this morning's inconvenience. Seat 2A has been restored. You may board at your convenience. Celeste showed no satisfaction. She didn't smile. She didn't need her rights returned. She had reclaimed them. She simply said, I don't need an apology. I need the system to learn this lesson permanently. 9:11 a.m. From a quiet corner behind the boarding desk at Gate D6, Lucas Barr, a systems technician for Ether Air, had been watching everything in silence. He wasn't powerful. He wasn't part of the plot. His title, IT Systems Liaison, Flight Operations. Reality, a background operator for a so-called smart system, one that, this morning, revealed how bias could be programmed in silence. And Lucas had seen more than his paycheck should allow. He had seen Celeste Moreau's name flagged as internal downgrade, discretionary reassignment. Seat 2A manually removed without a system trigger. Lounge access revoked after a supervisor sent a 3-word message. She's assertive, watch. The entire complaint trail locked under code flag 273, a label usually reserved for disruptive passengers. But there had been no disruption. No shouting. No rule breaking. Just a woman walking upright, asking for the rights she had paid for. Lucas knew it was wrong, but like so many others, he had stayed silent. Not out of agreement, but out of habit, and out of fear. Fear of being marked in the system as a variable. Fear of being called a disruptor. Fear of trading stability for justice. Until 9:18 a.m. A message appeared in a low-level internal security group one Lucas belonged to. The first line. Alert, whistleblower protection initiated. Below that, a form. Initiated by Ethics and Compliance, Horizon Holdings. Content. All personnel with information on discriminatory behavior, data manipulation, or unauthorized access reclassification will be protected if voluntarily submitting evidence within 24 hours. All files encrypted. No identities disclosed. Lucas stared at the screen. His cursor hovered over the Submit Feedback button. Flashes ran through his mind, Celeste's gaze. Trent's indifference. The silence of everyone else. He clicked the checkbox. One by one, he attached the files. Chat logs. System flags. Access edits. No commentary. No explanation. Only truth. He hit send. No one at the airport, no one in the control room knew it in that moment. But in the quiet shadows of a tech booth, a resistance had begun, one without speeches, only courage. 9:11 a.m. From a shadowed corner behind the boarding counter at Gate D6, Lucas Barr, systems technician for Ether Air, had been watching everything in silence. He wasn't powerful. He wasn't part of the design. His title, IT Systems Liaison, Flight Operations. His reality, a man working in the margins of a system labeled smart yet silently driven by bias. And this morning, Lucas had seen more than his pay grade allowed. He had seen Celeste Moreau's name tagged with internal downgrade, discretionary reassignment. C2A manually removed with no system reason. Lounge access revoked after a supervisor typed just 3 words internally. She's assertive, watch. The complaint flow sealed under flag 273, a code usually reserved for disruptive passengers. But there had been no disruption. No shouting. No incident. Just a woman walking upright, asking for what she had paid for. Lucas knew it was wrong. But like so many others, he had stayed silent. Not out of agreement, but out of habit. And fear. Fear of being marked in the system as a variable. Fear of being labeled a teambreaker. Fear of trading stability to do what was right. Until 9:18 a.m. An internal alert appeared in a low-security chat group one Lucas belonged to. The first line. Alert, whistleblower protection initiated. Beneath it, a form. Issued by Ethics and Compliance, Horizon Holdings. Content. All personnel with knowledge of discriminatory actions, data manipulation, or undocumented access changes are protected if voluntarily submitting evidence within 24 hours. All submissions encrypted. Identities confidential. Lucas stared at the screen. His cursor hovered over submit feedback. Images flashed through his mind. Celeste's eyes. Trent's indifference. The silence of everyone else. He clicked the box. One by one, he attached files. Chat logs. Access edits. System overrides. No commentary. No justification. Only truth. He hit send. No one in the airport or control rooms noticed yet. But in the quiet darkness of a tech station, a resistance had begun, not with speeches, just courage. 10:06 a.m. 3rd floor, temporary admin zone of Ether Air in Frankfurt, internally dubbed the dampening room. Here, crisis comms specialists handled sensitive matters before they reached headlines or boardrooms. This morning, the air was tense, like water moments before it breaks into storm. Helena Strad, director of European Communications, had just left an emergency call with regional execs. In her hand, a list of terms to be messaged carefully within 2 hours. Internal system malfunction. Unintentional personal data mismanagement. Suboptimal passenger experience. None of which matched the reality. A high-tier shareholder had been publicly discriminated against and retaliated with surgical financial force. Helena called internal IT. I need every passenger log related to case CM AA307. Who changed her access? Who flagged her file? Who moved her seat? Silence. Then a voice. Data's locked. Priority code triggered outside the system. Outside from where? Black tier. Horizon Holdings. They backed up everything before the alert went live. Helena sank into her chair. This wasn't just a media risk. This was a stakeholder-level investigation. 10:27 a.m. Milo Anderson, a back-end data engineer, called Helena. He looked like someone who had uncovered something that should have stayed buried. I've been reviewing 12 months of passenger reclassification logs matching patterns from Ms. Moreau's case. And? At least 43 similar instances. First-class seats canceled without cause. Lounge access revoked despite eligibility. Medical meals omitted from manifests. Helena's jaw tightened. Coincidence? Milo turned his screen. A chart glowed. Every flagged passenger shared one trait. They were people of color, women, or bore foreign-sounding names. Most weren't executives. Most had no leverage. Most never fought back. But this time, Milo said, they flagged the wrong person. 10:45 a.m. Helena stepped into a hastily assembled meeting internally dubbed Containment Ops. A team of senior managers was discussing blame strategies, proposed compensations, and how fast they could align the media narrative. Helena didn't say much. She simply laid down a file. Flagged passenger profiles, 12 months. We don't need a campaign, she said. We need accountability. A manager offered weak resistance. We can still manage the media if we act fast enough. No, Helena replied. We can't manage shareholders. And this time, we're not just being watched, we're being recorded. Silence. 11 a.m. Within Ether's system, a rare protocol activated. Public Audit Preparation Class A Discrimination Exposure Protocol. All flagged passenger files were now required to be handed over to external legal counsel. An action unprecedented, only triggered when international legal exposure loomed. And like the first domino, it tipped forward a chain of events no system could now contain. 10:06 a.m. Third floor, temporary administrative wing of Ether Air, Frankfurt. Internally, it's known as the dampening room. It's where crisis communications specialists handled unspeakable cases before they reached the media or the boardroom. This morning, the air was taut like water right before a storm breaks. Helena Strad, Director of European Communications, had just exited an emergency call with regional leadership. In her hand was a list of phrases to be appropriately framed within the next 2 hours. Internal system malfunction. Unintentional personal data oversight. Suboptimal passenger experience. Not one of them matched the truth. A high-tier shareholder had been openly discriminated against and had retaliated with financial force designed to destroy. Helena called internal IT. I need every log tied to CM AA307. Who altered access? Who flagged her file? Who changed the seat? Silence. Then, the data's locked. It's under an external priority code. Whose? Black Tier. Horizon Holdings. They backed up everything to their own system before the alert went live. Helena slumped into her chair. This wasn't about a PR fix anymore. This was now a shareholder-level investigation. 10:27 a.m. Milo Anderson, a back-end data analyst, called Helena. He had the look of someone who had seen something that should have stayed buried forever. I'm cross-checking past system edits to identify flagging patterns like Ms. Moreau's. And, at least, 43 similar cases. First-class seats canceled without explanation. Lounge access revoked despite eligibility. Medical meals removed from orders. Helena frowned. Coincidence? Milo turned his screen. A chart lit up. Every flagged passenger shared one common trait. They were either people of color, women, or carried foreign-sounding names. Most weren't executives. Most had no voice. Most didn't fight back. But this time, Milo said, they flagged the wrong person. 10:45 a.m. Helena entered a newly assembled containment strategy room where senior managers were brainstorming blame, calculating compensation, and drafting early talking points. She said little. She placed a file in front of them. Flagged passenger profiles, 12 months. We don't need a campaign, she said. We need accountability. One voice offered weak resistance. We can still control the media if we act fast enough. No, Helena replied. We can't control shareholders. And this time, we're not just being watched. We're being recorded. Silence. 11 a.m. Within Ether's core system, a rare protocol triggered. Public Audit Preparation Class A Discrimination Exposure Protocol. All hidden passenger records were now mandated for handover to external legal counsel. A move never enacted unless international inquiry was imminent. And like the first domino, it triggered a chain of consequences. No system could now stop. 11:42 a.m. Inside a high-level conference room at Ether Air's Frankfurt HQ, Building C. The air was so tense it felt like oxygen had vanished. For large screens displayed the same message. Request for emergency grounding, EU zone. Internal compliance failure. An unprecedented move. Ether Air's entire European flight network was being asked to pause operations for 24 hours. To undergo an internal review for discriminatory practices. Not by the press. Not by regulators, but by their lead shareholder, currently sitting less than 200 meters from Gate D6. 12:05 p.m. In the regional VP's office typically reserved for high-level partners. Celeste Moreau was invited in. The room was pristine to the point of sterility. No coffee. No flowers. No "we care" slogans. Just two people waiting. Mark Bellinger, Executive VP for EU. Sophie Lenz, Senior Legal Advisor and Crisis Manager. Mark began. We sincerely apologize, Dr. Moreau. We understand this wasn't a personal error. It was a systemic failure. Celeste said nothing. She looked at the black folder on the table. A silence agreement file. A tool airlines often use like anesthesia to bury evidence. Sophie slid it forward slowly. We propose a private resolution. Expungement of all internal records. Full fair refund in the form of lifetime elite status. And a contribution to a social impact fund in your name. In return. Celeste raised a finger, interrupting. In return, I stay silent? Sophie nodded, just barely. Mark interjected. We're facing the collapse of our regional operation. If this escalates publicly, the fallout will be uncontrollable. You could help save thousands of jobs. Celeste smiled a smile devoid of mercy. You don't need me to save you. You need me to bow. She reached into her leather bag, removed a single sheet, bearing the Horizon Strategic Holdings logo. It was not a request. It was not a complaint. It was a notice of document transfer to the European Transport Oversight Council and the UN Human Rights Commission. I don't need your deal. I need change, and it won't come from agreements printed on 180-gram stock. Mark started to respond, but her eyes stopped him. I gave you a chance when I walked up to the counter. No one listened. Now the whole world will? She stood. Sophie whispered. If you go public, Ether could lose its entire intercontinental network. Celeste simply replied. And if I stay silent, how many more like me will be erased with no one ever knowing? 12:37 p.m. At Gate D6, flight AA307 to Tokyo was cancelled. Passengers were invited to rebook with alternate carriers. No official reason given. Just one line. Operational review in progress. We apologize for the inconvenience. 12:53 p.m. Celeste received a message from Horizon Geneva. Documents received by all three international regulatory bodies. Media summary will be released at 1400 hours. Irreversible. Congratulations. She closed her phone. No words. No smile. None needed. Silence now was no longer submission. It was the sound of justice, beginning to move.